Okay, we're recording. Yeah, welcome to the fifth Siebel Friday this year, and ever since we started in January with Siebel 21.1, and now it's already May, and we got 21.5 to look at and have a poke at it. Yeah, I've got plenty of things to tell you, plenty of things to talk about. Hope this is going to be an interesting discussion for all of us. Okay, nice to see you all. Hi, Duncan.
Hello.
Hi, nice to see you. Okay, I see people are joining fast, so let's give them one more minute. Yeah, I'll give it a go. So let's take a look at the highlights for 21.5. Not that this would be a feature-packed version of Siebel. There's no official features in it. However, there's an interesting certification happening, and there might be more on that later when our friend Christian Berg from Oracle joins, and he's the OAS mastermind. So yeah, it's OAS, Oracle Analytics Server, and if you have followed the development around the product formerly known as Enquire, formerly known as Siebel Analytics, formerly known as Oracle Business Intelligence Enterprise Edition, now known as Oracle Analytics Server. This is now supported, certified with Siebel 21.5 or higher, which definitely is good news for all customers using some form of OBIE. This goes along with Oracle Analytics Publisher, formerly known as BI Publisher, formerly known as XML Publisher. So we take a deep look into that. And then there are two minor features that I identified by reading Bookshelf as usual, and by installing the thing. So actually, I was quite pleasantly surprised when I installed the developer web client update on a previous version, and the developer client stopped asking for SE2 database. Someone has a microphone open, and can you guys please mute yourselves? A lot of background noise there. Okay. Thank you. All right. So yeah, that was a pleasant surprise. So not asking any longer for SE2 installers or that database client installers for SE2. So you could just update your developer web client without any major distractions. I found one thing about the email marketing server. It is described in Bookshelf. There is now an encryption capability of trackable URLs, those URLs that are sent in emails. They're obviously now encrypted. I didn't look too much into that. And there's, okay, I'm gonna have to mute some of you. Hey, be kind, mute yourself. Yeah, there's the first time there's some environment variables that have existed for scripting and have not been really documented. They seem to be documented first time. Let's start with the biggest topic for 21.5, the certification with OAS 5.5, as Oracle tells us in Oracle support. Okay. Christian, are you there? Christian?
Yes.
Hi, Christian. Nice to have you on board. So, yeah, please welcome Christian Berg from Oracle. He joined Oracle in March, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
That was March, and most of you will know Christian from his Siebel legacy and also for his fame in the Oracle BI and OAS and OAC arena. So Christian,
yeah, probably more from the analytics area, because if you remember me from Siebel, that means you're old.
yeah, like me. Okay, and Christian and I had a chat yesterday about the new developments around the certification for OAS and thus OAP. Okay, and Christian shared with me some of his insights, and he agreed to join today to share these insights with you. So, so the first thing that strikes here is that it's the version number 5.5. Is it, Christian?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know whether you wanted to show something on your slide. You said me something yesterday, and then I'm just seeing the overhead slide here.
Oh yeah. Here we go.
Yeah, exactly. So, by the way, anything I'm going to say is my personal opinion. It's not Oracle's official statement. It's not Oracle's official position.
Noted.
You know, safe harbor. But very simply put, if you look at the documentation right now, it will say that OAS 5.5 is supported, or rather certified, for use with Siebel, so 21.5. That just means this is what they tested, because at that time when they tested it, they had 5.5 available. Now, in the meantime, actually in middle of March this year, Oracle Analytics Server 5.9 came out, which means that obviously at that day, the grace period started for 5.5, so for the old version, because Oracle will only support the OAS releases 12 months from GA of the new release. Which obviously...
That's Premier support, right? We talk about.
Yes, of course. Sorry. Premier support. But I mean, anyway, OAS is also, so the on-premises version of Oracle Analytics is now on yearly releases, and I anyway wouldn't pull any of the on-premises releases more than 24 months now. Meaning, for example, you know, if after 5.5 came 5.9, and the next one is, for example, 7.0, I wouldn't push 5.5 longer than until 7.0 rise, which means basically the normal life cycle of 5.5 plus the 12 months where basically 5.9 exists, and then you jump to 7.9. So some clients will want to do that. But my point is, the releases come yearly. The bundle patches come every 3-4 months. So it's anyway in your best interest to stay as close as possible to what's happening. Not just for bug fixes, but also you get all the new functionality for free. It just means upgrading. And the faster you do the upgrades and the closer you do the upgrades together, the less work it is. And trust me, there's an economy of scale factor in there. You will save more time going to the new version quickly, rather than saying, okay, we actually skip some and then jump to the next, or after the next one. And that will actually be a lot more effort. So you can't say, oh, I have 2 weeks effort every time, so 2 + 2 + 2, 6 weeks for the next one. No, it will not be 6 weeks. It will something be like 8 or 10 or so, just as an example.
Okay.
So from my side, the suggestion is definitely go to the latest and greatest, 5.9. It's the same code base as 5.5. It just has more stuff in it. The actual structural changes and the new things, they are actually in 6.0. So what we have in the cloud already, which is why it's called 6.0 also. Okay. So there was a lot more stuff happening there.
Okay, so that we'll have to wait for another 10 months to arrive in on-premises.
Yeah, but the thing is, you won't get 6.0 on premises. You will get like 6.3 or 6.4 or something, whatever they decided beginning of next calendar year. So that means that even that structural change will have had 4 cloud releases, the time frame of 4 cloud releases. They will have that time to stabilize it, to tweak it, to fine tune it, whatever, and then you get it on premises.
Okay. So on, let's say, Oracle support says 5.5.
Yeah.
Of course, if you think of future oriented, you would like to stay on the latest version, which is 5.9. So what's the best practice, best strategy for customers? And I think there are a lot of people in the room right now who are OBIE customers, BI publisher customers. So
and the question just came in, does this include OAP as well? Yes, of course it does include OAP as well, because OAS is always a bundle. So whenever OAS comes up, that means you have the new analytics, you have the new data visualization, you have the new publisher.
Right.
It's always a bundle.
And the big question, the elephant in the room question is like, okay, we go, let's say we decide to go to Siebel 21.5, 21.6, and upgrade our OBIE 12 to 5.9. Will we get support? Will we get support from Oracle?
So this is definitely something to raise. Well, first of all, with support, and second of all, with your whatever you have, your main sales guy, your account manager. If you're a big enough client, you have a dedicated person for that, etc., etc. And your argumentation is very simple. Oracle explicitly says, use the latest and greatest for OAS because we're actually down to yearly release cycles, etc., etc. The test, again, it comes down to the testing of Siebel integration with Oracle Analytics Server was done on 5.5. They haven't tested everything on 5.9. So 5.9 will officially be certified down the road for sure, because it's new, it's the latest one. I mean, it would not make sense to hold that back, because otherwise, what will they do next year? Because next year the same game starts again, so they have to play catch up. But it's definitely something that you have to raise with support and your account manager or your sales guy, because you should go to 5.9. So this is what I say as an analytics guy, and this is what I say as somebody who has seen a lot of product life cycles at clients.
Okay, that's
tell them the reason, and also tell them basically, we do know that for the time being it's not officially supported, like as in written in the documentation, but we actually need this, because trust me, between 5.5 and 5.9, that's a quantum leap in terms of functionality that you get.
Okay,
it's a huge difference.
All right. Thanks a ton, Christian. That's so much information here, and I love the fact that Oracle tells us get the latest and greatest, which they also do for Siebel. No, get the latest and greatest.
Yes.
It's just that this grace period is different from Siebel, because Siebel 20. If you're on the Siebel continuous release code base, you get like 11 years of Premier support, not 24 months. But anyway, there's one more question from Carl in the chat.
Yeah, from a resource perspective, does 5.9 require more than 5.5? Actually, no, it doesn't, because the new stuff that's in there is pretty much fancy stuff that offloads work to other environments like your database, so other parts of the environment like your database. So it actually doesn't do much itself. So there's a lot of new, for example, mapping capabilities, a lot of new charting, graphing, a lot of more embedded AI and machine learning. But that said, most of that is getting offloaded to the sources that we're actually attacking. So yes, it will use more resources if you do everything like in the dataset storage of 5.9. So if you basically load everything into analytics itself, but that's pretty pointless because the analytical platform is just that. It's an analytical platform. It's not a data storage space. It's not optimized for that. So yeah, you can do it. Sure, why not? But I wouldn't suggest you load like gigabytes and gigabytes of raw data into analytics. There's no point of like mangling 50 million rows in order to have a 10 row result set if you can just say, hey, database, give me these 10 rows with this logic.
Okay. Right. Yeah, thanks much. So another question coming in.
Yeah. If you're upgrading to an early 2000, okay, whoever that user is, your early 2022, well, it depends because early 2022, the next OAS release will come out. So which will be, yeah, something like 6.3 or 6.4 by then. So if you're early is basically before the release, then obviously 5.9. If it's after the release of OAS, I mean, definitely give it a try directly on 6.3, 6.4, or whatever it will be. I know that a couple of customers immediately jumped to 5.9. There were like one or two hiccups in there that I saw. I mean, obviously every release will have some minor bugs that need fixing and so on. But there are customers already running 5.9 now with their Siebel installations.
Mm-hmm.
So if only using BIP and have not installed, are there any issues? Nick, I'm not sure I understand the question. If only using BIP, so if you're only using BIP Publisher, what do you mean and have not installed? Are there any issues? Have not installed what? Duncan, yes, 5.5 is certified. It's the problem is 5.9 because basically 5.9 wasn't available to the testers when they were certifying it.
Okay.
If you
typing furiously.
wait, so if you, I'm just trying to read Nick's question here.
Yeah,
If you're
maybe,
only using BIP and
sorry.
have not installed BIP,
Guys, sorry, pressing for time a little bit.
oh, sorry.
Please keep typing in the chat. But we don't need to answer all this right away.
Okay.
We
I'm trying
offline.
to.
Take it offline with Christian, and we'll publish the answers on YouTube later. But keep chatting away. Keep putting your questions in the chat. Okay, because otherwise this becomes a OAS Friday, which is fine, but
For me, perfectly.
Yeah. I wanted to briefly discuss the other highlights for 21.5. So, well, OAS OAP 5.5 certification is the big one. There is not much information about the encryption thingy for email marketing server. I think that not a lot of people are using it in the room. I talked about the developer web client update, which now in 21.5 does not require the SE2 anymore, which is great. And there are some environment variables which are now in the documentation, which I have a slide. I captured it, literally screenshot it from Bookshelf. Not sure. I've saw them first pop up in some blog, not the Siebel Hub though. Back in IP15, and they're related to the scripting engine. And Oracle states when you use scripting, you might see some performance benefits. So that is like on a basis that if you have performance trouble with scripting, or it's actually also related to Siebel tools giving you performance trouble when you in the script editor, then you can set and try these environment variables. So anybody wants to add to that? Nope. Okay. Anyone seen those before?
Hi, Alex. Guru here.
Hi, Guru.
Alex, I just wanted to ask you the documentation, what we are referring to here, is it mentioned in 21.5 and it is applicable only to 21.5 or into the previous versions as well?
Well, I found these have appeared first when around IP15. So I think they work in older versions too.
Probably because we are under in 20.6 now, so we might be. It would be helpful for us to use these parameters.
Yeah. So I think it's a try it basis. But again, the IP15 was the first release when I first heard of these variables, but now they're in the official documentation. So interesting. Sometimes these things pop up in Bookshelf.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
part of performance tuning guide, right?
Sorry.
If I want to refer to.
Sorry. Say again.
Yeah, it is part of performance tuning guide, right? In Bookshelf, if I
Yes,
want to refer to.
performance tuning guide. There's a link below. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So as always, check out Bookshelf. What's new chapter? When there's a new release coming out. Nick asks about what about Linux? They're the same for Linux. Yeah. So that's just the screenshot I took is just the Windows one, but there's a Linux one. Yeah. Okay. Well, I've been updating some slides recently to document the update path to 21.5 now that MDE is stabilizing. The post-install database update gets a lot of bug fixes recently. So any experiences? Has anyone already updated to 21.5?
Yeah, I have.
And how did it go, Nick?
I've had better problems.
Okay, but did it go through on the first try, or did you have to run post-install database
I
manually?
ran the post install I had to run, and I had to run the repository upgrade. Both were pretty smooth.
Okay, yeah, because you have clinical, you need some stuff from the repository upgrade.
Right.
Right, yeah. Okay, both smooth. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried it. I tried several combinations of prior versions down to 20.6, 21.2. Seems to have smoothed out greatly. And so I came up with this process diagram. So for DR, because there's differences in DR and RR, and that was one of my customers' questions. So this is like the most complex diagram you can paint. All the gray stuff is totally optional. So the fast path is run the MDE with post-install database update, verify, and you're done. But if you have to run the repository upgrade, of course, you run it. If you have any configure instructions from the release notes, you have to apply them, then test and deliver. So that, of course, yeah, is more effort.
One big thing I found, it's a real huge one, is if you're like, I was on 20.6 going to 21, anything on 21.2 and later, if you you have that Siebel Hub where you put the optional customizations in the server XML.
You're right. Okay.
You got to take that out before you run the upgrade. Otherwise, it just corrupts the whole server XML.
Okay.
And you spend days trying to fix it.
Okay. So those the process changes the server XML. So there could be the result could not be desirable. But the old server XML is backed up, so it's not
right. But you
destroyed.
can, once they do their update to it, you can put that customization back and it works fine.
Yeah, that's
so just take it before you do the update.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, thanks, Nick. So yeah, in a DR, if you introduce any repository stuff coming from a prior version to 21.5 or .4 or .3, there's the repository upgrade to be run manually, which introduces this integration workspace, which you have to rebase and merge up and config instructions. But of course, in the RR, there is no such thing as doing something in the repository, because if you had any repository changes as part of your update, you simply migrate those changes upstream to your test and prod environments and are done after, of course, updating to 21.5. So there's an even faster path, of course, on test and production RR environments. Okay, well, that's it for 21.5 there, because there's no features really, just the certification. Yeah, thanks to Christian again, who is busying himself answering the chat questions, so we can put those up on YouTube. Thanks. Thanks again, Christian.
Yeah, you're welcome. No problem.
Yeah, and I've experienced one thing recently. I helped a customer in Germany, and I wanted to tell you about this tale of Java and queues and horses. And you might want to ask yourself, why horses? This smaller, medium-sized Siebel project is actually I think the one and only, but definitely the world's finest HRM, which is a horse relationship management. So they pretty much invented it. There are millions of horses listed, plus people owning the horses. And yeah, you can imagine this like e-automotive for equestrian purposes or something like that. So that Siebel is first, the people running it, they have agreed on me talking a little bit about it. So that thanks again. Florian is not here today, but he will sure enjoy on YouTube. They always strive to use the latest features, so they're on 21.4, and they integrate with several other cloud-based apps that are provided by other equestrian communities. And they have established kind of a messaging or notification layer for whenever some data is updated in one of their systems worldwide or European, across Europe, then there is a notification going on to others. And that uses a cloud provider's messaging and queuing systems. And you see how Siebel is integrated there. So and my task was actually to write the connector of sorts, the business service in Siebel that you can call to send something to that messaging or queuing service in the cloud. And yeah, to be honest, I'm a bit rusty on my Java and all this, so I tried it out, and well, happened to be that back in 2001, I can remember I did all these eScript maps, SAP connector, MQ series, you name it. And yeah, that was, I kept that going on for me. But now in 2021, I found some code on GitHub, it doesn't work. So what did I do wrong here? I actually found on GitHub an authenticator for that cloud provider. Which I found very useful, and it worked actually at first, because that authentication is literally generating an encrypted string, which you encrypt again and then hash again, and then you send the string to the cloud provider, it validates it, and then lets you in or not. So it's very secure. And that GitHub project had a lot of stars, and yeah, I used the code. It was Java code I used, but eventually when the messages got bigger, the authentication failed. Spent a lot of time troubleshooting, debugging it. And the solution was really to, well, go to GitHub again, this time go to the vendor directly and download the SDK that the vendor provides. Like any cloud vendor has a proper SDK for Java. And then, yeah, throw everything away, start from scratch and use the vendor SDK. And that did the trick. The solution was a Java business service, which I never really liked back in the old Siebel days, and because it ran on in the JVM inside the Siebel server, so it was kind of strange. And now with the new architecture in IP17, the Java business services are actually outsourced, or how would you call it? the workload is happening on the Tomcat server adjacent to the Siebel server. So the sidekick Tomcat. And that is a 64-bit Tomcat, so it has all the memory it needs, and your Java code can really use all the resources. And that, together with the libraries from the vendor, that worked out pretty fine. And we had, after several issues in the beginning, once we found the correct SDK, we had a nice cloud connector service to send messages to the queue. You see the business service runner here from devpops, which we use to test. Yeah, so that's the tale. I wanted to tell you that you can do surprisingly fast implementation of connectivity to a cloud API of your choice if you have the proper SDK. And in this case, we had to write the Java Business Service because the SDK was for Java, and for whatever reason, it was not for eScript. So lessons learned here. You can judge a cloud by its API. So the better the API, the faster you have a breakthrough. Always use the cloud vendor's SDK. That's what I take away from it. And Java Business Services, can be really cool. So that was, again, going back here to this. Now they are rolling it out soon, and they will be exchanging messaging in real time with other equestrian associations across Europe through a cloud-based messaging layer that is built upon a messaging interface and a queuing interface. So really nice to see that happening. Okay, maybe somebody else has a story to share with Java Business Service. Have you been using those recently? Okay, Jason says in the chat, good to see a real life example of using JBS to bridge Siebel with cloud services. Yeah. All right. Yeah, if you have anything to share about this, please put it in the chat or speak out. That's something you might not do every day, but it was sure something interesting. Okay, gonna give you a quick update on, well, before we do devpops update, let's jump on to, give me a moment there. Let's jump to the Siebel Hub. Because we have some new stuff out there on the Siebel Hub recently. First, great number here, 8,000 plus subscribers on the Siebel Hub. Thanks everybody. That's just great support there. And of the Siebel 2021 training that we put out since last autumn, started in 20.9, and the modular Siebel CRM workshop is recorded in 20.9, but we have been updating it to recent versions, including 21.4.5, and so you never get stuck on your knowledge with 20.9. So wherever it's applicable. So for example, the MDE, there's a training module on MDE that you can get, which is recorded in 21.2, and of course applies to 21.5. And we have just recently updated the web tools. Let's go there. The web tools video to 21.5. So that is now 2 videos that really give you full insight into all the current and existing knowledge on workspaces and web tools. Web tools has gotten a lot of features since 20.9, especially scripting editor, script debugger, workflow simulator. workflow editor, of course, and the web service wizard, the first wizard. We talked about all this in the previous Siebel Friday. Okay, so there's new stuff out there. Just check it out. And also the YouTube channel goes really well. I'm glad that we now passed 700 subscribers, which doesn't sound much, but we just get started here. And yeah, I'm quite sure you're checking it out frequently. We are putting out the update presentations every month. For 21.5 is there. And the 21.5 update, let me just play it real quick, because there's a kind of bonus track here with the repository upgrade included. Let me jump ahead. So you can see a video of actually running the repository upgrade, which probably is, a lot of people never do it in real life, and you might want to know how it feels. And so this is on a 20.6 to 21.5. And you see that repository upgrade running. And Nick mentioned the life sciences clinical features. So at the end, there's a report which you can check. And of course, you check out the, here you can see it pretty good. You see the integration workspace, which is provided as a result of the repository upgrade with all the life sciences stuff. And I'm not using life sciences or clinical, but I have tested this with the Siebel ERM application. So somewhere here after the rebase and merge, that Siebel ERM application becomes active. So it's been inactive, dormant for long years. It has never been updated to OpenUI. Only in 21.1, if I recall correctly, this functionality was made available. So if you update to 21.5 and for whatever reasons you want to use Siebel ERM, you have to apply the repository upgrade. And then you have a functional OpenUI Siebel ERM application again. And this is just a flashback into my history as a Siebel employee, where ERM, or AKA MySiebel, was a major application where we did all our timesheets and expense reporting. There were department pages. So I took a few minutes to enable the component group on the server, and then I was able to log into Siebel ERM in 21.5. So successful repository upgrade. Again, if you don't need any of this, you don't need to run the repository upgrade for sure. That's just the bonus track. You might want to watch the 21.5 update summary.
And there's a really critical flag on there too, Duncan, Alex, is the -N flag. And the -N flag says if you want to import those repository changes or not.
You mean when you run repository upgrade?
There's a -N. If you leave it as default, which is N, it'll bring those in. It basically says bring schema in only, not repository changes.
Okay, I can't see that on my screen here, but I ran it like so. I ran it like you see on the screen, and I got the integration workspace all right. So
you will do it because you haven't used the -N flag. So I mean, if you just want to bring in the tables and stuff.
I see. You just want to import the schema part.
Right.
Yeah. But then you still have to import the repository parts now.
If you want to. The problem with that is you can't bring in just pieces of it. You have to bring them all in and then start working that dev workspace.
Right. Yeah. So of course you have to the schema changes have to be included as well. Otherwise, it will not work. Yeah.
Right.
The resulting application or views or business components will not work. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for this, Nick. And yeah, it has a the other update I wanted to give you is on devpops, which has had another major update, which is already on GitHub, 21.5 that is. So again, it's an educational OpenUI example extension thingy where I demonstrate stuff that maybe goes beyond the envelope of OpenUI, including web tools customization, which is not safe for production or for anything other than playing around. But there was one thing I wanted to do always is like when I put out a new devpops update on GitHub, of course I wanted to test it, and now it has like 25 different features. So the manual testing became a little bit tedious, and of course Siebel 17 Plus has this test automation. So I wanted to be able to, well, use the test automation, but yeah, let me just bring it up real quick. I'll log out here. And if I log in with test automation on, so this object manager is configured to support test automation, then of course, I get the camera icon. Not sure if you're familiar with test automation. That's another chapter of Siebel here. But once this works, of course, you can start recording tests and playing back tests. That's the built-in recording playback features, which are really cool. If you haven't checked them out, do check them out. And in the background, it requires certain DOM attributes. So the interesting part is when you do it for, let's say, a vanilla screen tab, like the quotes tab here, if I inspect that let's inspect again. There you go. So you see there's an LI element, and this has additional attributes called ATA, automation tag attributes, and one of them is a type, object type, OT, Siebel screen, and then there's the repository name, so that makes it kind of unique. There's only one quote screen of that type, right? And then there's the username, which is like the translatable label or text. So these three attributes have to exist that the test automation works, so the recording and playback. And that is, of course, not the case if you like devpops does, and many OpenUI developers do that, create custom interfaces like this. Let's say the service runner. The service runner is a big dialog, jQuery. I have lots of buttons there and drop downs. And let's just run it. So you have lots and lots of dynamically generated stuff, which is definitely not in the repository, but generated by JavaScript. And these elements, these buttons, do not have any of these attributes until devpops 21.5, where I actually worked on an enrichment function, which runs the generating code, which is the jQuery dollar function. It runs the generated element through another function, which checks if automation is enabled. And if automation is enabled, so let's check out this delete button here. You see that it adds the OT button in that case, and RN, it generates a unique identifier for it. And so now I can record a script and play back a script with this feature. So that is now in the latest code base for devpops. It's not enabled for everything, but the service runner is one thing that is now. Not that you would run tests, but I think if you're interested in how to enable test automation for custom OpenUI elements, and you've never done it before, check out that functionality. Or drop me an email if you want to discuss it. So, and test automation, of course, is also something you might want to set up correctly so that it really runs. So there are a lot of parameters. UPT has to be enabled, the correct runtime events. So 21.5 has a test automation check. That's a new feature there. And so it has checked. You see enable UPTs set correctly. UPT end-to-end event list, it hasn't found, so let's skip this. And then it checks the server parameters. So it uses all the functions that were already in devpops with a bit of new stuff to check server parameters or system preferences or some workflows it can check. So you see that it's green, the parameter in question is set correctly, the container URL. Then it's looking up the servers you have, looking up the components, so checking this for call center. So it checks the component parameters, all from the cozy home of this dialog. So parameters true, it checks the action set, runtime events, the workflow processes, DISA, checks if DISA is running, and seems to be all green except for this system preference we can ignore. So there's a to-do list you can print out for later in case you have more stuff to set or so that is one wizard style checkup style feature that I could imagine to work in a similar way for a lot of other features in Siebel when you have a combination of a lot of parameters to work together to achieve something and check them. So that's a use case here for test automation. So you can run it on or against your system to check if it's ready for test automation or not. All right, so and 21.5 also includes the code separation, which a lot of you wanted. So let's check it out. So now in the, let's go to manifest. So in, there we go, platform independent application common, you now have, you have a devpops JS file. Many of you have done this, that they separated the code, which is one big postload file. You need a part of it for Siebel tools, for web tools, sorry. And you have the other part in a separate file. And now they're really separate on GitHub. So let's check out GitHub. Yeah, there's a new zip file, has everything you need for the latest release. There's the postload file, which you need to override if you want the web tools overrides to work, and devpops.js is a new file you need to register. So that's now cleaned up a little bit. So because it has grown so much. Yeah. And on the screen, by the way, you see a bit of a preview in 21.6. There is, not much stuff in it yet. So I'm working on it a little bit, but Redwood. I have a Redwood background on the banner now, which is just a nice touch to remind us that Oracle Redwood gives any application kind of cozy look and feel. And if you open up the online help in Web Tools, I've been discussing this with Brian and Duncan from Oracle. If you open the online help in the legacy Web Tools out of the box, you actually get to the same online help like you get for any Siebel application. So that's files on your Tomcat, on the AI Tomcat. and that's not even web tools. So it's the application help, and web tools gets you there as well. So it's not really helpful. And there is a web tools online help in the Tomcat folders, but it's outdated. So what I've been trying to do here is, if you go to help, online help in web tools, it really gets you to the real thing for the current version. So that's a 21.4. So it opens the 21.4 tools online help in the bookshelf on the internet. So that's a little bit of a tweak here. I know it's just a link in the end of the day, so it's not really a lot, but overriding a menu is kind of an interesting thing to do here. Okay, so that's a little bit of preview. Oh yeah, one more thing I've been working on is the property set viewer. Let's check it out. So I've been running the service runner, and let's say here's a nice one. You know, the web engine HTTP transaction service gets all kind of interesting stuff in a nice property set, and the service runner uses Slava's code to format that property set. It's pretty nifty, but can be a little bit unwieldy. And of course, it's the undecoded property set is even more unwieldy. So I've been working on this for on and off over the past years, but now it's getting past it's still in beta. So if you click prop set viewer, you get the property set formatted out in a nice, dialog, and you see the properties, you see the child property sets as tabs, and even if the child property set has other child property sets, they are available here. So these are just cookies in that. So that might be useful in the future for visualizing property sets better, but it's work in progress. So if you have any suggestions there, I'm happy to discuss. And if you want to be a part of devpops and maybe start developing on devpops together with us, then feel invited. Okay, Brian mentioned we are fixing this. That's the online help link. All right, that's good to hear. Okay, that was a quick one on Siebel 21.5. Bit of a backstory of connecting to a cloud using the vendor SDK, using Java Business Services, a bit of a DevPops update. I want to open the floor. The floor is open at all times. If you have anything to add, anything to tell us about 21.5 recent Siebel experiences, or you want to take advantage of all the friendly and nice people from Oracle who spent their spare time with us here. So please put questions in the chat, and we will update, put the redacted questions and answers on YouTube later. All right, anything from your side?
Hi, Alex. Guru here again.
Hi, Guru.
One thing I tried with was like in our last Siebel Hub post, you have mentioned the automation on web service deliver, inspect, all the concepts, right? And when I visited that post, I see two different kinds of setup. One for the Windows tools. So bat file setup was there, and for the normal one, BS was there. So I mean, the normal JavaScript was there for web tools. So I was trying to put both together into one common place. So I was thinking of using Python and the Django on top of that as a front-end service. So it will work, same code will work for the web tools as well as the web tools.
Sir, I didn't get the first part. Is that Is that related to devpops or?
Yeah, on the Siebel Hub post, there was a mention, right? Automation of deliver and inspect process.
Yes, so you mean the devpops feature when you can fast inspect workspace?
Correct.
Yeah.
So there were two pathways. Yeah, one for the web tools which had the JS files, and one for the Windows tools which had the back files, not back files.
No, actually it only works for the web client.
Okay,
There's
maybe I saw the Slavas post under it, so it had the back files also.
a batch. I can't remember batch file really.
Yeah.
So now in the current version of devpops, you have that postload.js, which is like you have to override the existing one, the vanilla postload.js.
Maybe I was referring to Slavas post inside that you had given a reference, not in GitHub, in the Siebel Hub post.
Okay, to Slava's blog post.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I can't tell you a lot about this, but I think I know what you mean. He had a quick delivery. Yeah, now I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
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 So I try to bring it onto the same domain, so using Python, so it can be run, same code can be run on Windows for Windows tools and web tools.
Okay. Maybe we'll take this offline. Can you send me an email and we have a separate session on that?
Sure. I will.
Yeah, I put my email address in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's about Slava's implementation. I get it now. Yeah. Okay, but yeah, happy to discuss this offline and take it further. All right. Okay. Anything else from Christian, if you're still here? Thank you again.
I am.
Yeah, there you are. Yeah, thank you again for showing, for discussing and
well, I didn't show
sharing,
anything this time.
No, sharing your insights with the Siebel community, and quite sure a lot of people appreciated having OBIE and BI Publisher or both with Siebel. So interesting upgrade projects ahead, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, and also Duncan and Brian, thanks for spending time with us here today and answering questions.
Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Okay, that's a wrap, as they say. I'll keep you posted on the Siebel Hub and on YouTube. And please check out the YouTube channel and the new Siebel Hub offerings. Okay,
thanks, Alex.
Yeah, it was great to have you. Thanks all, and wish you a happy weekend. Stay safe.
Same to you, Alex. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.